Hello and welcome
to an extraordinary episode of the Lume.
Extraordinary. An explosive episode.
An explosive episode. Yes. On that explosive note, we do want to mention that yes, we are all fine. We're all well, despite the conflict going on. The UAE is doing a very good job in defending the country and making sure these Iranian missiles don't come in. Very high success rate to the point where last night, I don't know if you saw this, but the president of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, went to Dubai Mall.
Yes.
And that's just where else in the world would you see this during a time of war, time of conflict? The president goes out to a public place. If he wasn't absolutely certain of his defenses, that wouldn't be possible.
I think this is one of the things our Sheikh Mohammed, our Dubai ruler, different Sheikh Mohammed, of course, not Sheikh Mohammed bin Maktoum. He has been to a horse race as well in the time when we had actually one of these attacks. So, and this is, I think, what shows the kind of leadership we have here. They are showing their face in the public very, very visibly, right? And saying we are not afraid. We have confidence in our defenses, in our forces, and that really helps, keeping people calm. Because they're saying
once again, there's no rioting, there's nothing is going on. It's business as usual. And once again, I don't think that this would be possible in very many places in the world. The level of calm, the level of chill, everybody's working from home, so no one's traveling, no one's going out. This is like COVID 2.0 essentially for us over here. But it's unbelievable how well this whole thing was handled. Yeah. Is being handled currently because it's still ongoing. It might be done by the time you guys listen to it next week. But
that's possible as well.
Or we could all be dead. We don't know.
We had unfortunately 3 people perished during the attacks so far, mostly from falling debris and from.
Yeah, but I want to also mention that we have 3 people that did pass away, but in the same thing, whenever we were given this news, it was mentioned each time that, please, we try to remind you, do not go near the falling debris. So I'm wondering if these people were trying to film something or do something, and they're like, oh, look, a flying, drone flying out of the sky, and then they go over there and
who knows? But it's still, even if it's just completely by accidents, there is debris falling down, and that can, of course, hurt people. It falls on houses sometimes. When you shoot something down, it will fall somewhere, right? But just to keep this in perspective of how many, let's say, people die of traffic accident, or not traffic accidents, just murder in the UK, for example, because I heard some people saying to their brethren who moved to Dubai and saying like, see, aren't you now happy? Are you not regretting that you moved from the UK? And they said, no. I'm having my margarita here at the beach, and I'm still happy.
Well, 3 out of 10 million, right? 10 million people in UAE, and out of that, 3.
Yeah, and if you look at the murder rate, just England and Wales, 1.4 murders every day that happen in this country, in England and Wales together, excluding Scotland. So the point is the danger of and that is every day. And we have Iranian attacks, well, not very often in general, right? So my point is it's probably more likely to fall victim of any murder in the UK than it is to be hit by a rocket debris.
Yeah. I also saw a few people saying they feel safer in Dubai during wartime than if they were going to go out in London at 9 p.m.
Yes, one weekend in Chicago is, I think, deadlier than this year. So yes, I think we are in a safe space. I feel very confident and safe here, even though it is very surreal, and I will not sugarcoat this. Having rockets flying over your heads and being intercepted literally over your heads when your building shakes and your windows rattle and all of this stuff. And you see the puffs of smoke of the intercepts, just the successful intercepts. It is scary. I mean, this is exactly what you see from war zones, right? And from Ukraine, from Israel, other parts of the world. And you think, this is not normal, and it's not a good feeling. I mean, there's no denying this. Are we confident that they will shoot out everything out of the sky as much as they can? Of course. But it's still something where you think, not so nice. And I can understand in people saying, okay, I just don't want to come to visit that place at the moment, the tourists. But again, thankfully, nothing too serious happened, except, of course, I don't want to downplay the 3 people who lost their lives. But in general, minor injuries for most of the people that had any experience with falling debris or drone attacks itself. So
yeah.
But again, the authorities have done a phenomenal job. I mean, how people were handled at the airport. And Abu Dhabi even says hotels take care of all stranded tourists, and we pay for it.
Yeah, the government picks up the bill. So I saw a lot of this. Like the airports were giving food and shelter to everyone that was stuck there. So it is once again something that wouldn't happen anywhere else. I'm not in Dubai like Ralph is, so I am about 150 kilometers or 100 miles away, in the middle of nowhere in the desert. So for us, we have nothing going on. We don't hear anything. There's no explosions. There's nothing going on where we are. In fact, to the point where a lot of people were that wanted to get out of Dubai came to Elaine, where I am. And right now, all of the hotels are absolutely fully booked. And then the prices, of course, of the hotels are ridiculous right now. Like the Aloft is 2,000 dirhams a night.
Whoa.
So it's, once again, it's a safe place to be. And then a lot of people are, of course, going over to Oman and catching flights to wherever from Oman. The tourists that were stranded here, right? That was their big exit strategy. So.
Yes, that's possible. You can do a land transfer to Oman. There's one, of course, especially in Hatta when you have to leave. I mean, I don't know if that's still relevant if you're listening to this episode, but if you go, you cannot cross the border by foot, right? So you have to have a vehicle, and you can't take a rental vehicle over the border unless you have
approval from the rental agency.
From the
Which, by the way, they are now. They're readily giving approvals for everyone.
But you can just get yourself to the border. There are taxi companies. They charge a pretty penny, I think $200 to just drive you the 3 kilometers across the border.
Well, no, the prices have gone up right now. I'm seeing ads as of now. Here are just some random exact ads that my bicycle group is sending. UAE to Oman airport car lift available, 1,500 per person plus 200 per bag.
But this is the transport entirely from Dubai to Oman. That means the transfer to the border, through the border, and then from there to Muscat. And Muscat is another 4.5 hours, 5 hours drive. So that is a good price, because what I mentioned, this $200 was just for the 300 meters, or 3 kilometers. And then you take another taxi to Muscat.
I see.
Right.
There's another deal in case anybody's interested. This one is Dubai to Riyadh will take you. You'll get a luxury car to take you from Dubai to Riyadh, where you can fly out on a private jet with a few others for 100,000 dirhams per person.
I heard the same. A charter plane that goes to India if you want, right? Every day. From Fujairah, apparently.
All right.
Well, I mean, there's very entrepreneurial spirit.
There is, and somebody said 4,500 for Dubai to Muscat for a car, which that got me thinking: should I be doing this too? Like, should I get the Pajero out and start taking people, because I could make a lot of money on this. So,
but you know what? We had this the first flights that actually left. And one of the first flights that actually left Abu Dhabi airport was a German airline, Lufthansa, and it was an A380. And guess what? It flew empty.
No one was in it.
No one was in it because it was a maintenance in Abu Dhabi. So, strangely enough, Lufthansa is one of the biggest. Also, Lufthansa Technik is one of the biggest provider of maintenance services. So they have, of course, hubs somewhere else where they, for example, also service A380s, because Lufthansa doesn't fly that many A380s anymore. So they flew this here to get maintenance, and then they had to fly it back, and they did, empty. The problem, well, of course, Germans who are stranded here are thinking, what the hell? Yeah. Why didn't you just take people? But the point is they had no crew. They had just had the pilots.
I think they would have managed. They would have lived. I mean, if it's truly an evacuation flight, I think you'll be fine with that.
No, the IATA rules are you can't do that, because for safety and security of the crew, of everybody, of the passengers, you need to have people who can evacuate. Yeah. And
True.
You can't just have 600 people.
You can't just throw a bunch of people on an A380.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everybody would have said, "Don't worry about in-flight entertainment and food. We bring our own stuff. Don't worry about it." But obviously, you need the crew to fly a plane, not just the pilots.
Same situation. The Hungarian embassy did a thing where they were trying to get all of the trapped Hungarian tourists out. First thing that happened was they housed them all. So essentially, they reached out to the Hungarian community, said, who can house a bunch of these people? So they put them all over the place. And nice. I had a friend who had 5 of these tourists staying with them for, I think, 1 or 2 nights. And then this morning, a giant bus came and picked them up from in front of their house to take them to Muscat, where Hungary sent an emergency Wizz Air flight to pick up the stranded tourists. And the funny thing is, Wizz Air doesn't fly to Muscat, but they arranged this specifically
it's not easy.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, the Hungarian government managed to get their, not all, but a good chunk of, or I don't know how many Hungarian tourists are stranded here, but they managed to get out a good number of people. And then
this is ridiculous.
There was a bunch of,
in a good way, ridiculous.
Wizz Air personnel that were stuck here as well, that they wanted to get out.
So I think this is ridiculous that countries like Germany are not doing this, and that's for me a bit like.
But the number of Germans are probably significantly more than the number of Hungarians. So you have to think, scale wise, it's much easier to manage the Hungarians. As a German, I must say that I got very continuous communication from our Auswärtigem Amt, which is our foreign ministry, right, and our consulate here in the region, and they gave us very good information. So they told us how to get to Muscat, what we need to do, who to call, that we can't cross the border here, there, and all of these contact details of people who can help you with that in the end. But also to say, like, there's a couple of ways. Always think, even if there are flights, you might not get directly to your home country. Try just to get to any other place from which you can then fly on to Germany. But basically, they said follow the rules of whatever the local authorities are telling you, right? Follow their guidelines for safety and security, and just take care of yourself. And that's, they have not reached out to local Germans to say where we can actually. Could we house people? They had basically, that would have been really nice, because we could have offered, at least 2 people we could have housed as well. Yeah. But so weird. It didn't really struck them maybe, and that's a very good way of doing things. Respect to the Hungarians. Yeah, so that was very interesting. What was funny was one of my friends was on this list for some reason. He lives here in Elaine, and he's like, why am I on this list? So the list was not 100% accurate, but nonetheless, it was. Yeah, it was an attempt.
That's in the German. We get updates every year, I think, or every half a year. We have to log in and just confirm that every contact details and locations are still the same.
Neither the Hungarian embassy has asked me for anything, nor has the American government ever asked me for this. But the Hungarian, this whole Hungarian thing was not done. I don't know. It was in conjunction with Wizz Air. So it was the Wizz Air, the tourists on the last, I don't know how many flights that they were supposed to fly back out. That's what they knew that they were trying to arrange.
Yeah, that's a bit different because most of if you're flying with the local airline, then they are more or less responsible for you. When they cancel a flight, right? To a certain extent.
Yeah. So, but this was once again though, because Wizz Air is a Hungarian airline, right? So there's no longer an Abu Dhabi based airline like it used to be when they merged for a hot second. But nonetheless, point of story is that they reached out to the Hungarian embassy, and that's how this whole thing came about. But nonetheless,
in terms of crisis, which watch are you wearing?
Yes. Yeah. So I decided to put on a watch that has probably been through a lot more stuff than any of my other watches. And this is my grandfather's old Romer Elegant, and which is very funny because you're wearing a very, very similar watch with the same 12, 3, 6, and 9. So this is a no date silver. This is a 35, 36 millimeter cushion case, manual wind watch, and it's got some ridiculous patina, but I managed to find this nice NATO strap for it.
Yeah, it matches well.
It does. But I've been wearing this the last couple of days, and I'm pretty sure this has already been through some wars. So
yeah, it's good. It's a good choice.
And you're wearing?
I'm wearing the Tudor Ranger, and I'm more and more inclined to keep it. I put it on this rubber strap. It's a nice, really integrated rubber strap, which I got from AliExpress. One of the more expensive ones, right? Because I always feel with AliExpress, I mean, you never know what you get. I mean, in regards to chemicals being used in these straps and whatever. So I think
so there's only a very small percentage of enriched uranium in this.
Yes. So I just don't want my hand to fall off after a couple of days.
It's just going to glow at night.
So in this case, I decided that it's probably spend a bit more and have a higher likelihood that it's a better quality. It's a super quality, and I have a green one as well. And I really enjoyed the look at it with this caoutchouc rubber strap. It's FKM rubber, whatever it is, fluoro. I have no idea what it stands for. Yeah, so it's really nice. And it's, easy, legible, robust.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that's the watch I need for this guy. I was
wondering if you're going to sell this or not, but there's no reason to.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, it's the Explorer is nice, but I don't have a rubber strap for the Explorer yet. I have to still order one.
But the bracelet is so nice on those. I wouldn't even mess with it. Yeah. Like leave it on the bracelet and you have this on the strap, and then you get best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But
I got an offer recently for this watch just today, this morning, 7,000. Somebody wanted to buy it from me, but I thought, nah, I keep it for that.
Not
one.
Needed. So this is what's funny about my grandfather's watch as well. Is I was thinking about this. I was looking at the dial. Right, first it's a no date, which had it been a date there, I wouldn't be wearing it. Right, so that's the first thing. But the second thing is, it reminds me of the Ranger, because it has the exact same font for the 12, 3, 6, and 9. So these, quote unquote Explorer dials back in the way. So I was looking at it. It was like, is this technically considered a field watch? So I'll hold it up to the camera for you. But would you say that's a field watch?
Yeah, I would say yes. So. Yeah, I would say yes.
Kind of cool.
It's a cushion case, so it's but it's nice.
But the cushion case was back in the day because it was easier to manufacture. So it was, there's no lugs, right? It's much easier for them to make. And this watch, we think, remember we talked about this a year or two ago. All we know is that the company went bankrupt in 1975. So all we know is it has to be older than 1975.
But it's still active today, Roma.
Oh, yeah. But now the shitters that they make, it's ridiculous.
Who knows?
No, they're really, really ugly watches.
I bet. Okay.
But they're sold by Rivoli. actually, which is quite
Yeah,
funny.
it's Swiss made. So
Yeah, but they're hideous.
coming to our biggest news today.
Before we get to the biggest news,
okay.
let me read one. I had a
Smallest news.
user listener
Yes.
message, and then we'll get to what we're talking about for the day. So, let me look at the name. CRNAGORA, whatever. Eddie 14. So we'll call him Eddie. Eddie says, and came in a month ago, but for some reason slipped into the spam folder, so I didn't respond to it. He says he's a huge fan of the Lume plotters. He says he listens all the time. I'm a New York-based watch enthusiast and wanted to share a quick thought. He says, I wasn't too fond of the recent Zenith episode, as it felt a bit overly critical. In my view, Zenith is a phenomenal brand with incredible history, in-house movements, and a strong value proposition for the price. Personally, I'd choose a Zenith over a Tudor any day. That said, I really enjoy the podcast and appreciate the work you guys do. Keep it up. Definitely, I'll keep listening. So I responded to this. I'll tell you what I responded, and then you can comment on what you think as well. So I said, hello, thanks for listening. I totally agree. We are definitely a bit harsh, but we're harsh because we care, right? If we didn't give a shit about Zenith, we wouldn't say anything about Zenith, right? The fact is we like the brand and we hate what's happening to it. So whereas both of us are huge Zenith fans, and I would love to add one to my collection, although fate has stepped in the way each time for some reason. Hands down, I would much rather have an El Primero than a Tudor as well. But the criticism is not of the watches themselves, but of how the brand positions itself. The LVMH group seems to be really screwing the pooch on this. And if they aren't careful, we might not have any Zeniths in the future if the brand goes defunct. So essentially, the big thing here is we are being critical because there is room for improvement. There are definite courses of action that could happen. We have nothing bad to say about the watches themselves. Maybe the price point is going a little high, but otherwise, I totally agree that Zenith beats a Tudor, right? There's
100%. It's a different.
Not even the same price.
No, it's a different league. I think it's one level up at least. For Zenith, 100% agree. So I owned a Zenith D521 Extreme. Not Extreme, sorry, D521, not an Extreme one. I love that watch. It was a beautiful watch with the two movements in one watch, basically, two escapements, one with 360,000 beats per second, right? I could have measured a hundredth of a second. And of course, the normal El Primero movement in it for the normal timekeeping. I mean, that was incredible watchmaking. And I love that watch. It's just that, of course, in the whole collection frenzy, sometimes you have to pass some on. But you had a Zenith, or
I never had a Zenith.
I
remember I was at the Zenith boutique. No, I was with the credit card in hand for the triple calendar.
Yes, correct.
And we agreed on the price. So we said, okay, the lady said, I'll give you, I think it was a 5% discount. I said, okay, let's do it. And she went to the back and then came back and said, no, the manager says no. And I was very disheartened by this. But in retrospect, I don't mind. That's fine, because now I'm on to the other Zenith, which is the Revival, the Chronomaster Revival Shadow, which is the one that I want now. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, once again, here's the big point. It's 40,000 dirhams. But on the secondhand market, if I look at Chrono 24, they're 20,000 dirhams. And I just don't see myself spending 40K and tomorrow turning around and it's worth half that. So I think if one would show up in the Timepiece 360 auctions for a good price, I would probably bid on it. If one happened to be floating around in the secondhand market around us, I would take it. But I was just a little bit... I don't think I'd buy it brand new.
I understand. Your audio is a bit crackly. I don't know if that's... I thought it might go away. Don't know if it's...
Still crackly?
Yep.
Let me...
Now it's a bit better?
Is it a bit better?
No, it's still a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Just switch off the microphone and let's switch it back on. I've just mute it and switch it back on and see if that fixes it. I don't know if it's in the recording or if it's just in our transfer.
I think there's some issues with the mic as well. Hold on. Do you hear anything? Is it better?
Yeah, it's still crackling a bit. So you are under,
let me see if I can change my settings, but I don't think I can in Riverside.
I think you can choose a different. I don't know if you can.
Not while we're recording.
You can't switch now. Okay.
Let me see.
Nope.
Hold on.
No problem.
Yeah, it's not allowing me to do anything. But if it's that bad,
No, it's not bad. I mean, you're understandable, and I can also do something in later on.
Yeah, but I don't want it to suck for the listeners. Poor listeners.
Yeah, no, I know, I understand this, but I think it's better than we go on. And then I can always do some magic afterwards.
All right, let's see.
So, main topic? Yeah?
Yes.
Main topic?
So go on. All right. So as you guys know, last week we did the Morgan Stanley watch report. And so if you listen to that episode, we were very overly critical about Omega. And the Swatch Group in general. And the Swatch Group was not very fond of this. So they came back and they wrote an angry letter to Morgan Stanley saying, "How dare you do this to us?" And we would like to read this letter to you, or Ralph will read this letter to you.
Yeah, I think we can do either excerpts. Let me see. I'm just sharing this here with you. Share, what is it here? Share screen. Let's share the entire screen. That is the easiest. Chuck. Here. So let me make this bigger.
Open letter to Morgan Stanley Investment Management about its research on the 9th annual Swiss Watch.
Dated
18th February 2026.
Yeah. So basically the executive summary is they have accused Morgan Stanley of false sense of precision in their price ranges, poor data situation, and they're saying literally there's unsubstantiated data.
Let me just read it because you're paraphrasing in such a way that it ends up being longer than if you just read it.
No. My point is especially what they're. Yeah, okay.
Just the executive summary we'll read. No, just this executive summary. So the first point that they say is lack of reliable data.
Yeah.
So the figures and statements in the research are based on unsuitable and not transparent data sources without disclosing their unreliability. None of the input can be verified, which once again, I'm going to defend Morgan Stanley on this because Morgan Stanley says that a lot of these are estimates that they kind of.
Yeah, all of it is estimated.
So it's not verifiable because it's a freaking estimate. Like, okay, sure. Then they say questionable methodology. The methodology appears designed to hide the poor data situation. This includes an abundance of unsubstantiated data, apparent inaccuracies such as the use of point values instead of ranges to create a false sense of precision, and plausibility checks that sometimes produce absurd results. Then the next point is incorrect findings. As far as our brands are concerned, the figures in the research are highly inaccurate. Actual turnover figures deviate on average by 24% from those presented in the research, with a range of minus 53% to plus 46% for individual brands. The inaccuracies are even more pronounced for unit sales, with an average deviation of 39% ranging from minus 48 to a plus 198%. Thus, in the case of Hamilton, actual unit sales are 3 times higher than stated. You can find a similar degree of deviation in the implied retail prices, which we'll talk about all this in a moment because there's a lot to unpack here. Negligent conclusions. Oh, that's a big word, negligent. These significant errors make any reliable ranking, as this is done by research, impossible. Given above average deviations from Swatch Group brands, Omega, for example, could rank anywhere from 2nd to 6th instead of as listed 5th. Damaging statements. The research includes statements about sales development and profits of our companies that could seriously undermine customer and retailer trust. Some of these wrong statements are so severe that in addition to communication measures, legal action should be considered. And lastly, potential conflicts of interest. While Morgan Stanley discloses potential conflicts of interest, the author of the research, Lux Consult, does not. Given that the data sources are said to rely primarily on information from discussions with brand representatives, this lacks the transparency. Or this lack of transparency is concerning. So, that's kind of what they're saying.
And listen, I think it is a very, very strong point there. I mean, because it's devastating for the Swatch Group, the results, if they were true, but now learning that there is a lot not true, right? I mean, when they said, let's take this example from Hamilton, right? Or just say the first Omega itself. Omega itself was estimated to have 2.2 billion Swiss francs revenue and 460,000 units sold. Mm-hmm. In the same month, another report came out from the bank Vontobel, and they estimated the Omega revenue to be 1.7 billion. That is a difference of 500 million Swiss francs. That is a lot. This is more than a lot of watch brands will ever make, right?
Yes.
And so that is an incredible difference just between these two estimates. So one brand basically, anyhow, so basically they said,
but at the end of the day, yes, it's a huge difference. But even the way they worded this, right? From minus 50%, this means they don't want to disclose, but Morgan Stanley overestimated some of their brands by 50%.
Correct.
Overestimated, which means they made them seem more favorable. And if this is true here, this $500 million Swiss francs of loss or lower income that Omega would have had, it wouldn't have been fifth place.
No, it would have
been far less.
Yes, but my point is there, and this is something that Hodinkee wrote about it. Swatch Group said in a couple of examples, for example, that the PRX actually did not drop 5%. Morgan Stanley said 5% less sales in Tissot. And the reality is, as Swatch mentioned, their sales number grew by 3%, right? Sales grew 3% and did drop. So that's 8% difference. And then they said
one watch
brand, yeah.
No, one watch.
No, they said saying the PRX model maker. They're talking about the Tissot brand.
Oh, are you okay? I thought this is just the PRX. No. Okay, I understand.
No,
just
it's
the
just
Tissot
about Tissot itself.
Okay.
Then they said, and Tissot is one of the top 5 brands, right? top 10 brands, right? So for Swatch Group's Hamilton brand, they say that Morgan Stanley, or this report said they sold 95,000 pieces. Swatch Group says that is wrong. They sold 3 times more. So nearly 300,000 pieces, right?
Yep.
And that shows a huge discrepancy. And also they said the average retail price of a Hamilton was estimated at 2,000 Swiss francs, which you and me know is too high, right?
Yeah.
We didn't look at it in detail, and for Hamilton, and because we would have thought, that's a bit much for an average price of a Hamilton.
It's $740.
Yes,
which is reasonable.
Yeah, but 3 times more watches sold, but at half the retail price, average retail price, right? And also, then they said the average retail price of a Mido is just shy of 1,000 Swiss francs. And it was also estimated to be 2,130 Swiss francs on average. So Swatch Group said it's very far off of their estimations. And that is, of course, we always said you have to take these numbers with a grain of salt, but that is a big grain of salt, because if they are so wrong with such big brands, then it's really bad for Morgan Stanley and for Luxe Consult. And in case of Longines, they said Longines did not make a loss in 2025. They actually made a net profit of 16.6%. That's also something where you think you shouldn't announce that a brand made a loss if you're not 100% sure, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not your brand. You are you're creating this industry report, right? So you have to be very clear and maybe even over-inform people reading this that this is just an estimation based on, sometimes hearsay, sometimes anecdotal data, and whatever is publicly available, right? So I'm a bit shocked about how wrong certain things were. Obviously, either Oliver Müller's company Luxe Consult nor Morgan Stanley have yet responded because they're checking with their legal departments, right, for what they can and cannot say.
Yeah.
But
Swatch is pissed, essentially.
Swatch is pissed, and rightly so. If the numbers are so far off, I would be pissed too, even if it's in the positive in some brands and the negative in other brands.
Yeah, but then why don't you just freaking give them the numbers? And this is the other thing, is they don't want to give them the numbers. So then we're reliant on estimates. And then they're complaining the estimates are wrong when they're the ones not giving numbers to begin with. So it's just so kind of, it's so strange. But nonetheless, the other funny thing is we were overly critical about Omega. And what is mentioned the least in this entire letter is Omega. They go to town on Tissot and they talk about Longines and Mido and Brado and whatever. But Omega is almost like not mentioned at all, which means it was probably lower, right? Because once again, as I said, they said some of their brands were minus 50%, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering if Omega was overestimated.
See, you're right. And this is exactly the point. A couple of years back, I think Tudor or Rolex mentioned to them that the Tudor numbers were wrong, the amount of watches sold. And suddenly, instead of 300 and 350,000 watches, they were reduced to 150. And everybody said, oh, look at the numbers, they dropped, right? Tudor sold so fewer watches, basically. And the same was now laid out with Breguet. They said to the report producers, the Swatch Group, that Breguet does not actually have an average retail price of 15,000 Swiss francs, which was in the report every year until 2023. And the Swatch Group informed them and said, this is completely wrong. The average retail price is 32,500. And so they changed it, right, in the new report or in the 2024 report. But the turnover, they let that stay the same. So just basically saying, instead of 20,000 watches, they only sold 7,000. So you can't make this estimation for a brand and suddenly, I mean, you were so wrong in one way or the other, right? I mean, either you overestimated the numbers, the volume, or the revenue. But in this case, they just made a bit of a mess of the Breguet numbers completely, right? You left the turnover, but and then accepted the average retail price, but then obviously you have to reduce the other number. It makes no sense. So instead of 20,000 watches, they dropped to 7,000, according to the report. And the same was applied to Harry Winston in 2025, when they just said, okay, the average turnover stays the same. But so what they did basically is, I think, because the Swatch Group does not break down the revenue per brand, they basically took the entire revenue of the Swatch Group, the watch division, and divided it into what they think revenue per brand, and then tried to make the numbers of average retail value and how many watches they sold fit the overall numbers sold from the Swatch Group. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's so much guesswork, right? And only anecdotal data, talking to some store managers, talking to some other unidentified unofficial sources, can give you only so much, because it's only a certain area, a certain market. So yeah, the numbers are not accurate. And if you change, and that's also what they're saying there, without any further acknowledgement or mentioning, they change suddenly the average retail value of Breguet from 15,000 one year to 32,000 the next year, and don't even talk about that they have aligned it or based this on the information.
They give you historical charts, right? And that becomes another issue. Is with
Correct.
Tudor, you assume that they dropped production from 30,000 to 15,000 or whatever it was, right?
Yeah, 300 to 150, yeah.
Yeah. And without any other context, you assume, oh, wow, they're doing really badly.
Correct.
But in fact, no, they just corrected the incorrect numbers.
Yes. And of course, not looking back into the old reports, obviously, because that would be a lot of money spent on revising the old reports, right? So obviously, they don't want to do that. So, yeah, I think that's...
I never really liked these Morgan Stanley watch reports. Every year it comes out, and I feel like it's a load of horse shit.
No, but it's the best horse shit we have. I mean, I love getting an insight in the deeper workings and how the brands are doing. I think this is amazing information to get. But if you can't trust the information, we always said it's probably not the most accurate, but we still thought there is something true about it, right? So, and that's
some due diligence was done.
Yeah, but now seeing this, retail share, for example, they said Breguet research assumes 22%, but actually it's 54% share of retail. For Longines, they're saying the retail share is 10%, but in reality it's 24%. And this is really bad, especially if you as a Swatch Group have your own retailers, not own retailers, just authorized dealers, and they're thinking, wait a second, right? You're selling so much direct or with your own things, which is competing with my sales, right? So there's lots of repercussions that you can have when this is being touted as pretty accurate, right? Yeah. And as I said here,
let's see what happens.
They said basically when you have the average deviation of 24% for Watch Group, could reshuffle everything in the entire top 5. They said Omega could be on a second place, as I said before, as you read this, or could be in the 6th place, based on that difference, up or down.
And notice how they wrote this in such a way that they know where it should be, but like because once again, they know if it's a higher or low, but they just admitted that it could be even lower, right?
Correct. It's big drama, and this is the way of how they play it. Is basically saying you are wrong. We know the correct data, but we're not telling you.
Yeah.
So instead of just giving the information out, as you said before, it would be nice if the brands would just cooperate and just give them the top line numbers, right? But obviously,
I love this line. Listen to this. The research claims that Omega fell 2 positions to number 5 by turnover, overtaken by Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe. This is therefore meaningless. It could just as easily mean that Omega has overtaken Cartier and is now in 2nd place. So, with no concrete numbers, with nothing definitive, they're saying, well, we could be better. How do you know?
If the average discrepancy is applied, we could be either better than Cartier.
Or worse.
Oh, it could be even worse.
Yes. But this is the stupidest nonsense that they like.
Yeah, but it just wants they just want to basically.
No, but if they're not giving us the numbers, look, for Mido they give us numbers. For Breguet they gave us numbers. For Hamilton they give. For Omega they did not give us numbers, which means 100% it's worse because everything they stated about Omega was hypothetical, which means it didn't actually add up, right? But they wanted to say on average this could have happened, which it just shows me that Omega is struggling. It further confirms that
the overall Swatch Group is not in in the best position, I think. They could do much better. We all know this, I think, and we all want them to be better because they have wonderful brands. But yeah, it feels like this is it's damaging, the report for the Swatch Group in more areas than it should be, right? And we can argue that this, as they said, using even decimal points for percentages instead of ranges gives you a false sense of accuracy, right? Mm-hmm. That this data is really precise because you give a decimal point in the percentages.
But look at this, like they're actually, like here on Longines, they're saying the research also makes an unsubstantiated claim about the profitability. For example, it asserts that Longines became loss-making in 2025. We believe that this once highly profitable, this is what they said in the report. We believe that this once highly profitable brand became loss-making in 2025 and is now Swatch Group's main problem child, page 3. In reality, Swatch says, Longines reports a profit of 16.6% on net sales in 2025. Once again, giving you an exact number.
Correct.
Once again, for Omega, nothing.
Correct.
So this is what my takeaway was from this entire letter, was that they really are trying to hide what's happening with Omega.
Yeah. They definitely don't want to speak clearly about what Omega has achieved, but are happy to prove other brands' data wrong.
But then don't complain about what they said about Omega, right? You cannot complain about something and not give proof, right?
Well, the proof lies with the person who made the first claim, right? Omega can say, see here, you're wrong because this is our data and we know better. You claimed to know our production numbers and our average retail sales and all of this stuff, and we can only tell you, you are wrong because it's our numbers. So obviously it is up to Morgan Stanley and Luxoconsult to now basically take that letter and saying, okay, our methodology is based on the data we had access to and we have estimated. And yes, it can be sometimes pretty wrong. Does it give some people a wrong sense of accuracy? Absolutely. And I think that has to be highlighted with maybe a big disclaimer on every chart. Estimates, 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 right?
Is that not on there? Go to the charts. I believe they did put something similar on these. Scroll down to the bottom with the.
Let me see. I mean, look, it says, note this chart.
Estimates. It says right there, estimates.
Yes.
At the very bottom.
In the fine print. What I mean is, it should be like in a transparent, across the entire table, estimate. Estimate.
Okay. No, estimate. I'm okay with this. They put it in the footer that these are Morgan Stanley research estimates.
Yeah,
you can't complain more than that.
They're saying our estimates of the top 550 brands turnover. And they're saying even in each column, EST dot, right? Implied, EST. So basically,
you can't be more clear than that.
Yeah, I still think because we're just seeing these pictures, people don't read much. It probably could have done a bit more prominent, I guess. So, I don't know. I don't either.
But nonetheless, all I can tell you as a definitive fact is Omega is not doing well.
It's definitely not on number test and second place.
This confirms it.
Yeah.
Because if they were better than fifth place, they would have given you those exact numbers like they did with every other brand.
Yeah, but they have exactly, with all the other brands that they found the big discrepancies, they have happily shared the true numbers, not with Omega. So yeah, I think they reverted to a hypothetical. If we apply the average deviation of the Swatch Group brands of 24% to Omega, it would have been between second and sixth place. Why would you do this hypothetically?
I've written so many research papers. I know exactly how we fudge our statistics, and this is how we do it, exactly like this. You know your numbers don't add up, so you have to find a way to make it seem positive a little bit, and this is what you do. But shame on you, Swatch Group, for trying to slide one past us.
But good on you for calling out all where it is actually wrong, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
But you should have mentioned the omega numbers. Like, that's just not cool.
I still feel that in this day and age, and if you have these Swiss watch brands, these reports, that's obviously such a big event when this thing comes out every year. Just provide top-line numbers. And if a company doesn't provide top-line numbers, then estimate, right? And then basically work with the brands. Morgan Stanley is not a small company, right? And you would think that if they go forward and saying like, hey, listen, give us these, for each brand, give us these 5 or 6 data points, right? Mm-hmm. And just so we are not making it up. And if you don't give us these data points, we will just make our best estimate. And that could give the brands some incentive to say, okay, let's rather give it to them than having really completely wrong estimates, right? In a bad way and a good way, because it doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, the Swiss watch industry has never been open, right? I mean, they have actually, the COSC has always published how many calibers they have certified of each brand every year until 2015, when the brands decided they don't want COSC to publish how many of their watch movements they have certified. Because that could tell you how many Breitlings were sold or even produced, because every Breitling had a chronometer certification, every Rolex had a certification. So that gave us the numbers of how many Rolex watches were produced in this year, or at least movements were produced in this year. And they didn't want that. They wanted more obfuscation. They didn't want that information public, and so COSC only says how many movements, mechanical movements overall they tested. Mm-hmm. And that shows you that the watch industry or the brands themselves don't want transparency, right? That's why
they want to be shrouded in this mystery.
Correct. That's why Omega doesn't make it public.
This is why the Submariner book was such a big deal.
Correct.
Is because it was the first time all of the Submariner publication numbers were made public, right?
Yeah, the production and numbers for each year, each model number for each year were publicized. Yeah, correct.
Which had never happened before.
Correct. Official numbers. Exactly.
So, on that bombshell.
So, what else is new? Do you want to talk about new things? I have two new watches that I want to talk about.
Tell me about your new watches.
Monochrome watches. I saw a beautiful new watch. And I wondered if you also find this beautiful, or
I
if you think
probably don't.
It's rubbish.
Does it have a date window?
It does not.
Let's see. Let's see.
Okay, share, and go here.
Ooh.
Tutima. That's what I thought.
Tutima Glashütte.
It's a Tutima Glashütte, a Patria titanium. This is a high gloss, highly polished.
How much money? Because this is the thing. Hold on, pause. But before you say, this could be extremely a lot of money, or it could be extremely a little money, and I cannot tell which one it's going to be. So tell me.
Okay, so Tutima Glashütte moved their production to Glashütte a couple of years ago, right? So they're now fully in Glashütte, and Patria is this one of these model lines that they celebrated that with. This is a hand-wound movement, beautiful hands, baby blue, sky blue dial with this hobnail
pattern
in it. I don't know if it's
small second.
Yeah, small
at
second
6 o'clock. Yeah, but what I really like about it is the crown guards.
Yeah.
You don't really see dress watches with crown guards too often.
Yeah.
And this has an onion crown with proper crown guards, which is super weird. And I'm here for it. I like it.
Yeah. And it looks like it's a 41 millimeter watch, so it's a bit bigger.
Oh God, they ruined it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
I'm out.
but I think because it's so
big.
nicely shaped, it does actually wear quite nicely. It has a very big crown because it's a hand-wound watch. It has this beautiful elephant gray, or as they call it, graphite gray. It's a sheep skin, a sheep leather strap. It looks a bit like the kudu leather from Formosa, but it's sheepskin. 50-meter water resistance, and this is the movement. And
it's very good looking.
I think it is.
The fact that it's so big is strange. Like I think it should be a 38 millimeter watch, but
yeah, Tutima is they do a bit of the larger watches generally. This is 41. We're coming to this topic of large and small watches with my next presentation. But this is a hand-wound movement, 65 hours power reserve, has this beautiful hand bent breguet mainspring, and it's in-house. It's a lovely watch.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be too expensive.
Yes, it is 8,600 euros.
Yeah.
So 8,600 euros in dirhams is 37,000, so $10,000 at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
And this is going to be on discount for 50% off at the Rivoli outlets very soon.
Who knows? Probably it's, yeah, might not be, because actually a lot of these Tutimas keep value quite okay. I mean, of course, like every watch brand except 1% of watches.
I thought Tutimas were on the 2,000 euro price point.
No, there's a bit higher. This is definitely a more expensive one, but don't mess them up with the other ones like Union Glashütte and Mühle Glashütte. This is Tutima is a bit on the higher end of these brands nowadays, right?
If this was a Glashütte original, I would have liked it more.
But they do have, Tutima has some in the 2,000 euro range. You're right. I mean, they do have watches there as well. I think it is beautiful. But I saw this watch and I thought, that looks really, really nice.
It does. Yes.
It does.
But the 41 millimeter size, I'm going to say absolutely not.
Yeah. So if you go to Tutima itself, Tutima watches, check here.
Because they have some really ugly watches, like some serious hideous watches.
I agree. Some of them are a bit questionable, but also if you look at the catalog of these watches, I feel when you go, let's say we are choosing this watch, which is the same watch, but just with a different color scheme, it just doesn't give you any nice vibes, at least on their website. The website is a bit poor in regards to making these watches attractive. This looks terribly boring, the watch, and I'm sorry that you are not seeing it at the moment, but I think the photography on this watch, on the watches and how they're displayed is not giving them any benefit.
I fail to see who the buyer of this is going to be. Who's going to say, you know what? My $10,000 is not going to go to a Submariner. Instead, it's going to go to a Tutima. I just don't see it.
It's definitely somebody who knows about watches and who knows about this producer. It's an in-house. Again, this case looks like steel, but it's titanium. So you have to. It is fantastically well made. And I've played around on Dubai Watch Week with a couple of these, and I think they're worth what they're asking for. Brand image, that is still an uphill battle, I think. They have to do more. It's an independent manufacturer, right? So it's not easy to get that brand cachet in that. It is a
good-looking
area.
watch, though, for sure.
Okay, next one. New Norqains. The Norqain Adventure. And look at these. One nice in green and one nice in gray with this also ice blue accents. And another one in orange, which I am somewhere seeing or not seeing anymore. I thought there's another one, orange. However, what I wanted to tell you is this is the Adventure collection, right? And they have already a collection. In this collection, you have the size of 42 millimeters and 37 millimeters. And now they brought out these two in the middle, 40 millimeters, which is basically like the Goldilocks size, right? 3940 is what everybody can more or less wear. And with these nice details, if you see these crown stems have the color of the accents of the internal bezel and the indices, the Lume color, basically. See this little thing here?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Tudor did this.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, but Tudor always made this everything red, right?
No, Tudor was always the color of the bezel. The red one was with the burgundy bezel, blue one for the blue bezel, and so forth.
Okay, so I think this is very cute. It's a chronometer certified watch, 200 meters water resistant.
Is it the Sellita or is it
Yes,
the...
it is unfortunately the Sellita. It is not the Kinesi movement in this watch. And of course, hence it only has 41 hours of power reserve. You can get it in with a metal steel bracelet, but of course you only have a price of 3,200 euros, right?
That's still very expensive for a Sellita
chronometer spec watch. I know you can get
it's too much because once again,
yes.
Look at Doxa, who uses the same movement, and Doxa is already fairly expensive, right? I don't think Norqain has a lot of brand panache. Doxa does. And Doxa is cheaper than this. I don't understand why the Norqain prices are what they are. And once again, is it the Jean-Claude Biver little, because he was involved, so now all the prices get inflated? I don't know.
Yeah, see, I just read here that I didn't read this before, that it's actually replacing the 42 millimeter watch with the 40 millimeter one. I think that's a good step to do, right? I mean, a bit smaller, but also they increased the price by 1,000 euros towards the watch that they replaced, which is a bit of a bummer.
What a good deal.
You get a smaller watch for 1,000 dirhams, 1,000 euros.
It's always like you get less for more money.
But I still like these two designs. The green and the gray looks fantastic with the light blue accents.
It looks like the Christopher Ward.
Nicer. It looks nicer, I think. I would prefer that.
Kind of the same. But the fact is, Christopher Ward cracked the top 50 in the Morgan Stanley report.
100%.
But according to Omega, it could be 2 or it could be 150 and nobody knows.
Yeah. Then I have something for you. When you talk about Doxa, look at this Unimatics. A Pro Diver 600 meter watch, water resistant, with a typical, of course, minimalistic view, and in this wonderful blue. That is a weird blue. I mean, like such a rich blue.
Feel like I should buy a Unimatic again. I sold mine too quickly. Did you sell yours? You still have yours?
I have mine, yeah. It's a watch from the Caliber Watch Club, so yeah, it's obviously a special one to me.
But I do want one, a dive version of it is what I'm thinking. I wish I would have had the rotating bezel. But nonetheless, here's another watch with a Sellita movement. How much is this one going for?
I don't think this is a chronometer
1,000.
certified.
It's not, but it's about 1,500 euros.
Yeah.
Less than half the price of the Norqain.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah.
And it's waterproof to 600 meters, I think it was.
600 meters, yeah.
And limited to 300 pieces.
Yeah.
Like the Norqain is not a value proposition in any sense. I don't get it. I think it should be.
We should tell Toby.
I will. Next time I see him.
Yeah.
I'll sit down with him and I'll restructure his entire company myself.
Just make everything cheaper.
Yeah. Problem solved.
Fantastic.
So I did see something cool today that I didn't know existed.
Okay.
And this is totally random. It's not a new watch. However, it is a DLC coated, so blacked out, Tag Heuer Aquaracer, with the solar, whatever they call it. What do they call it?
Solar graph, I think.
Solar graph. Yeah, exactly. However, we've seen this watch before in titanium with a bunch of things, but they made a black PVD version with a drumroll carbon bezel. And in the carbon bezel, so it's a carbon fiber, whatever you call it, pressed carbon fiber, bezel. They infused it with Lume. So you see the weave of the carbon fiber glowing at night. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but it's super cool. It's not something I would wear, but when I saw it,
and where did you see it? Is already in there?
I'll show you. I'm going to show you a picture.
No, wait. I'm just putting.
Just put in tag Aquaracer carbon bezel.
No, I was on the Tag Heuer website.
Here it is. It's called Tag Heuer Carbon Aquaracer.
Because I'm here looking at all the Aquaracers and here.
Where?
This is it. Tag Heuer Aquaracer.
Yeah, and you don't see it here. But do they have a nighttime view or something?
A Lume shot. Let me see. Out
no
of stock
Lume shot?
I don't think so.
So when you look at it at night,
it does look good. I mean, I do
cool.
like blacked out watches.
But the way the carbon fiber glows.
Here they show it.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Like, I don't know why you need the carbon fiber to glow, but it is so cool. Like,
it is very nice indeed. It looks a bit like Alien, when the Alien title screen comes up and it's the screens. Yeah. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah, it looks like
I've
the
never
Alien
seen anything
blood.
like it. Yeah. It looks like in this game. No, they have two different colors.
Yeah.
One is this green one, or whatever this is, and then the other one is the Tiffany blue. Yeah. So they made two varietals, and then the color is based on what the Lume color is on the watch.
And it's a 40 millimeter watch, steel and carbon case.
I don't know anything about the size or anything, but I just saw this. I saw the Lume shot of this, and I thought to myself, "This is
the Lume shot." Yeah,
you can't tell me that is not one of the coolest things you've seen.
That is very cool. I agree.
It is.
I agree. So very cool. 13,000 dirhams.
And it's a regular, what's it called? DLC coated case. So it has nothing to do with anything else, but it is got this carbon bezel, and I think that's really neat.
Yeah. And of course, it got it's a solar graph, so it's a quartz movement. So 13,700 AED in euro. Oops, I think I have a bit too.
32,000 euros. No, it's 3,200 euros. One extra zero.
It's basically the same price as the as the Norqain with the quartz movement, and not even.
Shut up! No, this is a solar quartz, and it's a tag, and it's a carbon fiber bezel, and it's a lubed carbon fiber bezel.
Oh yeah. Okay.
No, wait. Did you put dollars or euros?
Euros.
Okay, then it's the exact same price to the dollar, to the euro. It's 3,200.
Okay. Just wanted to prove a point.
Yes, I got you.
So yeah.
But
have we talked about Breitling being the sponsor of Aston Martin?
No, but they did. They did. Did we talk about how Aston Martin is no longer the safety car?
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look,
Mercedes is now exclusive to the safety car. Aston Martin withdrew their rights from the safety car, but yes, they're sponsored by a D-tier watch manufacturer. Congratulations.
No, but of course, there's a lot of discussions going on, and we have to remember that we have this great interview with Edward Milan, right, in our back catalog, where he talks about exactly the financials of this and what it means to Moser to be a sponsor of Alpine, how they contacted him, right, or Moser itself, and how much they get out of it with sales activations, basically. These taking their customers, let's call them whales, right? They're big whales towards Formula 1 events where they can go to the pits, can do, depending on how many, I think they have 400 per year or so 400 slots or so where they can actually invite people to, right? Something like that, he told me. And this is also something that might be interesting for Moser customer, because Moser watches are on a quite higher price tier, right? So there is money to be made, and you want to keep your existing customers happy. And if you invite them to some of these events, they will be a bit more loyal. It's a fact, right? Because the brand does such nice things for you, you might be paying back in kind and buying more of their watches. If Breitling can do this, I'm not so sure. I feel Breitling has a lot of DNA for a lot of things, right?
Too much, some would say.
Yes.
Too many different shoes or hats or whatever you want to call it.
But racing, or car racing, is not really one of them.
Well, they try with their chronographs, the whatever, what is it called? The
Premier?
Breitling, no, the what?
Premier? No.
The Premier, yeah. The Premier with the B01 movement is kind of like motorcycle-y, is maybe what they're trying to go for. I don't know.
We have the Super Oceans, we have the Navi Timers, we have... Anyhow, they are now the sponsors. I'm sure Aston Martin is not one of the top teams. I'm sure it cost them some money, but maybe because Bremont fell out, right? I think they were Bremont.
Yeah, they were Bremont
just until
beforehand.
Recently. So having no sponsor, maybe they were shopping around as well, Aston Martin, and trying to find a sponsor for their team. I don't know, or if Breitling approached them, or if it was the other way around. I'm sure it was a good deal. I mean, George Kern is a savvy negotiator, so I'm sure it didn't sign a bad deal for them. But yeah, they are now the sponsor. That is something new.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's enough of news and new and stuff for one day.
I think so too.
Yeah. So on that disappointment.
Yeah, not a bombshell, because we are not talking about explosives and bombs anymore.
And that was only at the beginning. So, meanwhile, Ralph has put himself as a chief podcasting officer on his name title when we.
Yeah, it asked me for a title, and I thought that is a good one.
Yes, very good, very good. So,
okay, I deleted it.
All right, good.
Bye bye. Thanks for listening.
Yes, we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.